Hello again, thanks very much for joining me. Today I'm going to tie an emerging midge pattern. Now I'm tying it on a size 14 hook so that you can see what I'm doing, but mostly I've been tying these on size 18 and 20, which is about as small as I go. So in the vise is a Hanak 333 barbless hook at size 14, and it's a fine wire hook. And the thread I'm going to be using today, you can't see the label, but it's the Fish On Ultimate Tying Silk, and as you can see here, it's olive. So first thing I'm going to do, if you remember from previous videos, is add a little spot of super glue just to get my thread bedded in. So just touch the shank there with a brush, and then I can come in and capture my thread on. Now, all the super glue does means I won't get any rotation on the fly when I start to get properly into tying it. Okay, so fairly happy with that. Now, first thing I'm going to do is add my wing. So I've stopped my thread about 1/8 of an inch back from the eye of the hook. On smaller hooks, obviously it's a much shorter distance. Today I'm going to be using Trout Line's Ultra Select CDC, and this is the sandy grey coloured one. So I've already selected 3 plumes for this size of fly, but in the normal scheme of things, in the smaller flies, I would just use 2 plumes. Even for the size 20s, I would use the tips of 2 plumes. So I've got that. I'm going to dress it up to the hook. And what I want is about the length of the shank, which I've got there. So from the bend to the eye of the hook. Maybe a little bit longer, but I'm going to dress that up. Put one turn in, then another, and then once it's in place, I can hold that into place. Just check you've got some room at the front there. Can you see that? A bit of room at the front. And that your CDC is coming off the back of the shank. So it's not rotated round to the left or right. It's coming straight off the back of the shank. Now, I'm going to come in with my scissors and cut a diagonal, which is going to help me with my tapered body. And then I can capture that in. Don't put a lot of pressure on at this point, because what will happen is, despite having super glue and stuff on the shank, you will end up rotating your CDC. Now, what I like about the natural CDC is nice and dark, and in some light conditions that dark contrast can be really spotted well on the water, but in other light conditions this sandy coloured one really stands out for me anyway. So I'm going to put a trailing shuck on this midge. So what I've got here is some crystal flash. I haven't got the packet because I've only got a few strands left, but as you can see, it's a crinkly, quite a flashy material. So I'm going to capture that in at the butt section here, and I want to capture one down one side and one down the other side. So I'm on the side of the shank now. Now, it doesn't need much. So what I'm going to do is come in with my scissors, and I'm going to give it 2/8 of an inch and just take that away. And put it to the side. Actually, I was going to put it in the bucket there, but I've got so little left, I'm going to save it. Okay, next. Now, although this thread is olive, it could do with a little bit of a boost. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with my Pro marker, because I want it a little bit greener than the thread is. So this is the olive green, and I'm just going to colour up my thread a little bit. That's the good thing about these, the Vivus is the same. They do take colour well. But what I would caution you is, you've got to seal it afterwards. So I've caught that in now, the green, and the thread's flattened out lovely for me, and I'm just going to build up my body. Now, I rarely tie these in size 14. They're mostly in, 16 is as big as I'll go with this fly. And that's why the body's just thread, really, because my eyesight won't permit me to do any more with it. So that's spot on. Now, I'm not overly concerned with the bit here, because I'm going to cover that with a different material in a moment. But first of all, I've got to protect the colour that I've just put onto the thread. So to do that, I'm going to use some of the Perdigon resin from Trout line, and I'll just get a little bit onto my needle. This quite literally needs hardly anything, but it does need a bit. So in fact, that's too much already. I can see that I've got too much on my needle, so just needs to have a little coat. Now, just make sure you work it all the way round. I can just see a bit on my side, it's not quite taken. And then you can come in with your torch and cure it off. So far so good. They're not great fun to tie, actually, especially in the smaller sizes. I always end up tying 2 or 3 and then having to do something else because my eyes just can't take the strain. That's old age for you. So just cure that off. Once that's done, I'm going to use some Kapok in olive. Now this is a great material. You've got to take what you can get. It's probably a little bit darker than what I would have liked. I'd have liked it a little lighter than this, but beggars can't be choosers. I don't dye materials, so I've gotten what I could take. The Kapok comes from Trout line as well, and what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to split my thread, and I'm going to capture some in my clip. Now this may seem like an awful lot of material, and it is, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to thin it out with my fingertips once I've spun it up. Of course, the other way of doing this is simply dub it on and then you can tease it out with a brush later, but I do find that you get a much better effect if you make a little brush on these flies. Might be a little bit more time consuming, and for the commercial tyers out there, I dare say they'll be going, oh no, that's too much trouble. But if you're just tying for yourself, you do get a much nicer effect with this. So you can see I've made a little dubbing brush here. And I'm now going to bring that up to the fly and build my thorax there. Then I can pull everything back, and the gap I've left at the front. Perfect. Now, what building up that material at the front does, and somebody asked me about this the other day, is why do you build up the material here at the front? Now, depending on how much material you put here will depend on the angle that your your CDC sits, and that angle is important for how the fly sits in the water. So if you imagine the fly, if I can just change that in the vise, on the surface of the water, it's going to sit like that. So it's sitting like an emerging fly, and this gives the impression of it's just shed its shuck and it's about to hatch. So that's why I take a lot of effort in leaving a gap at the front here, so I can put as much or as little dubbing in there as I can to change the angle of the fly as it fishes. So there's reasons for doing everything. And that's why I do that for whoever it was that asked. I'm going to add a little bit of UV resin to my thread just to finish off, and then slick everything back out the way. Build your little head. Whip finish if you've got one. If not, you can put a half hitch in, and with the ultra silk I'll get away with just snapping away like that. I've buried it within the head, and then come in with my torch and cure that off. And just to finish off, although it won't take much, I've got my dubbing brush here, and I just want to tease out ever so slightly a bit of the kapok. And the reason it's no effort is because I've used the dubbing brush rather than just putting it straight on dub normally with your fingers as you would normally add dubbing. So there we go, little midge, emerging midge pattern. I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks very much for watching. If it's the first time to the channel, please remember to subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. If you want to make them up, that's how to do it.